Bait-and-switch media. Whether you're familiar with the term or not, if you grew up in the golden age of the internet, then chances are you've fallen victim to it more than once. It's that classic trick of a link, video or website promising one thing and then delivering something else entirely, usually something annoying, disgusting, disturbing, or even virus-infested. To give some examples, on the lighter end of the spectrum, we're talking things like rickrolling. The next tier up would be those seemingly innocent videos and flash games that gave us all our first heart attack, the KFC commercials, or the maze game for instance. The next level above that would be the so-called unholy trinity of the internet, Goatsy, Tubgoal, and Lemon Party. But at the very top of that totem pole of depravity were websites like womensalliance.xyz. Created in October 2020 by notorious internet sadist Obok Meatgod, womensalliance.xyz disguised itself as a feminist blogging community with a landing page which read as follows. This website contains stories of female empowerment. Some of these stories may upset or offend sensitive users. This site is unsuitable for children. The moment users entered the site, their screens would forcibly switch to full screen mode. What followed was a grotesque video montage of women being tortured, mutilated, injected with various diseases, and literally slaughtered. In some of the most graphic scenes, maggots could be seen crawling out of their orifices, all while Roy Orbison's "Oh Pretty Woman" rang out on full blast in the background, a song no doubt chosen to mock the victims featured in the clips. Any attempt to leave the site would only reset the full screen function, and pressing any key on the keyboard would trigger a fake prompt asking if the user really wanted to leave the site. Clicking OK would result in a barrage of alert boxes containing misogynistic threats backed by high-pitched static. I've even read reports that the site automatically turned each visitor's computer volume up to max, though I'm not actually sure if that's possible for websites to do these days. Still, if it did, then RIP to all the headphone users, I guess. Though not as popular as Obok's other shock site, Kekma, which honestly could be its own entry in a future video, womensalliance.xyz still garnered plenty of traffic through word of mouth, particularly on Discord servers, where morbid pranksters spammed the link and baited many unsuspecting victims. In Obok's words, he created womensalliance.xyz due to the lack of shock sites in the modern internet era. He's since defended his creation, saying he gave all of his visitors a chance to turn back before clicking enter, and that although he could have infected their devices with malware, he chose not to. Most who fell for his trap are understandably less than forgiving though, given that many of those video clips remain seared into their minds to this day. womensalliance.xyz has since been taken down. Though archive links to it do still exist, I strongly advise you don't go searching for them. Trust me, some things are better left unseen. It was the 16th of January, 2022, and family man Hubert Washam had just left his Alabama home to grab a bite to eat. It had been a perfectly normal day up until that point, with Hubert having spent most of it at his 8-mile residence with his family. But no more than 20 minutes after stepping out of his front door, Hubert received a frantic call from his autistic son, Desmond. "Dad, Damien killed Mummy." Hubert's heart immediately sank. Damien was Hubert's younger son, a 23-year-old man who, in recent weeks, had begun acting unusually, ranting about reptilian overlords, preaching about the Egyptian underworld, staring at the sun to absorb its energy, and sending links to his sisters in an attempt to convince them of his newfound beliefs. It was then that Hubert remembered an item that Damien had recently purchased: a samurai sword. In a state of pure panic, Hubert rushed back to the small family home and found his wife of 30 years, Helen Nettles Washam, unresponsive on the floor. There were 19 slashes to her head, neck, and arms. Realizing that she was already gone, Hubert then ran upstairs to check on the rest of his family. His other son, Desmond, had been lacerated, and his brother-in-law, George, was missing half of his face. Both were thankfully still alive, and they explained how Damien had attacked them with a katana before fleeing to an abandoned house nearby. After the police were alerted to his location, Damien took off in his 2000 Honda Accord, sword in hand, and led deputies on a chase that ended when spike strips immobilized his vehicle. He was swiftly apprehended and charged with his mother's slaying, but was later found not guilty by reason of insanity. Up until that point, Damien had no prior run-ins with the law, and his social media pages showed no signs of him losing his grip on reality. Those who knew him best spoke of how normal and well-adjusted he was. But according to his father, between 4 and 6 weeks before the tragedy unfolded, Damien had fallen down a dark rabbit hole, having apparently been brainwashed by a mysterious online group that he had encountered in a Call of Duty lobby. He had started listening to some crazy group of people, like a cult or something, Hubert told the media. We'd never had any problems out of him, and then all of a sudden, he started acting paranoid. A year and a half before Damien took his mother's life, a channel called the University of Cosmic Intelligence began uploading videos to YouTube. The man behind the account was Rashad Jamal White, an Atlanta-based rapper with convictions for battery, strangulation, and suffocation. He had also previously been charged in connection with a murder, but wasn't convicted. By late 2020, Rashad had turned over a new leaf and decided that rather than take from society, he was going to give back to it. And what he had to offer was his godly wisdom. Going by his New Age name, Divine Insight, the self-proclaimed prophet used his platform to wax lyrical about mysticism and conspiracy theories, warning his followers of government plots to control them. Among other things, Rashad alleges that NBA players are synthetic robots, that rainbows are stargates to alternate dimensions, that human bodies are avatars injected with nanobot technology at birth, that birds are actually drones used to spy on citizens, that the Mississippi River is actually the Nile, that ancient Egyptian gods were actually aliens who once walked the earth, that the sun is the source of all human energy, and that clouds are government tools used to block its power, keeping people weak and obedient. The crux of Rashad's philosophy, however, hinges on race. Specifically, that Caucasians are shape-shifting reptilians, while Black and Latino people are spiritually enlightened gods and goddesses chosen by divine forces. In the past, he's preached about how their blue-skinned ancestors had once wielded immense spiritual power before, quote, losing their frequency and being subjugated. Despite being as convincing as a Zuckerberg smile, the teachings of cosmic intelligence struck a chord with many people, particularly the disenfranchised, marginalized, and frankly gullible. With so many people in the modern era lacking a sense of meaning and purpose in life, Rashad was able to amass a worryingly large fanbase, with over 200,000 people subscribing to his YouTube channel, 150,000 to his TikTok, and 105,000 to his Instagram page. Visiting the group's website, Rashad claims to have founded his online university to enlighten and illuminate the minds of carbonated beings. But if we look a little deeper beneath the surface, it becomes quite apparent that cosmic intelligence is just like every other cult. In other words, a get-rich-quick scheme masquerading as a spiritual movement. The guru's most arcane knowledge is predictably locked behind a paywall. If you want access to Rashad's daily live lectures, for example, then you'll need to purchase one of his university's very reasonably priced subscription packages. But why waste your time with the gold and blue packages when you could go straight to Violet? As he's keen to tell you, it's the best seller, the cheapest package, and a money saver. For the low price of $333.33, you not only get a year's access to live lectures, but also unlock all sorts of exciting goodies, like a 9% coupon off Rashad's merch store. After all, who wouldn't want to buy one of these amazing artifacts, especially with such an attractive refund policy? Despite being an obvious scam, the University of Cosmic Intelligence's subscriber count has continued to grow. Rashad's followers aren't simply fans though. Many are disciples, devout believers who refer to him as God and spend thousands of dollars to finance his lifestyle. For example, prior to slaying his mother, Damien Washam had reportedly spent $5,000 on crystals from his merch store. But just as his popularity and bank balance began to skyrocket, Rashad was arrested yet again, this time for SAing the child of his ex-girlfriend, Darshell Smith. He was convicted in 2023, and a Georgia judge handed him an 18-year prison sentence with an additional 22 years probation. For some, this marked the end of their faith in him, but for others, it only cemented their loyalty. An online petition titled Justice for Rashad Jamal quickly gathered thousands of signatures, with his followers stating that the legal case against him was a deliberate effort to suppress his spiritual power. 2 members who signed the petition were Yasmin Haider and Crystal Pinkins, an unlikely duo who had met through cosmic intelligence. Prior to becoming members, Yasmin, then 20, was a former college student in Oklahoma, and Crystal, 36, a certified health aide in Tennessee. Both came from tight-knit families who described them as ordinary and well-adjusted women. That is, before they began engaging with cosmic intelligence posts on social media sites. By August 2022, the pair had seemingly abandoned their past lives and took to traveling around the country together, living off-grid in makeshift campsites as per Rashad's teachings, free from government surveillance and isolated from their support networks. On August 14th of that same year, the duo found themselves completely out of money, having given most of what they had to Rashad. But that mattered not, for as he had taught them, the laws of the US don't apply to them, and so they could simply take whatever they wanted. As such, Yasmin and Crystal formulated a plan, one that would have dire consequences. That afternoon, Michaela Paulus and her boyfriend Adam Simji, both students at the University of Central Florida, were driving through Talladega National Forest, a final getaway before the start of the fall semester. As they made their way along a particularly quiet stretch of road, they came upon a young woman, flagging them down for assistance. That woman was Yasmin Haider. Posing as a stranded motorist, Yasmin asked the young couple for help jump-starting her vehicle. Adam and Michaela decided to be good Samaritans and spent an hour trying to get Yasmin's car started, searching for YouTube tutorials and even calling Adam's mechanic father to figure out a possible solution. After checking the coast was clear, Yasmin pulled a firearm on the unsuspecting couple and demanded that they hand over their keys, cell phones, and bank cards. Not wanting any trouble, Michaela and Adam complied, but when Yasmin ordered them to walk into the woods, it became disturbingly apparent that they were about to be executed. In an effort to protect his girlfriend, Adam drew his concealed firearm and fired 4 shots at Yasmin, hitting her 3 times in the chest and once in the leg. Yasmin returned fire, hitting Adam once in the back. Michaela was a nursing student, and she desperately tried to save Adam, while Yasmin called out to her accomplice, Crystal, who'd been watching everything from the tree line. But rather than help, Crystal abandoned her comrade and fled deeper into the woods. Adam lived for another 20 minutes after being hit. Unfortunately, it took paramedics 30 minutes to arrive at the scene, by which point Adam had succumbed to his wound. Another life lost to members of cosmic intelligence. Yasmin, on the other hand, survived the ordeal and was quick to give up her traitorous accomplice, Crystal. The authorities later found the 36-year-old hiding at a nearby base camp where she and Yasmin had been living in tents. Crystal's 5-year-old child emerged from one of them, armed with a loaded shotgun. Thankfully, the authorities were able to disarm the boy without further incident. While searching the area for evidence, officers encountered several more tents that belonged to other members of cosmic intelligence. After making a full recovery, Yasmin Haider took a plea deal and received a 35-year sentence for ending Adam's life. In exchange, she testified against her co-conspirator, Crystal Pinkins. Despite not pulling the trigger herself, Crystal was determined to have been the mastermind behind the plot and was given a life sentence. Despite cosmic intelligence now being linked to 2 slayings, there was nothing that directly implicated its leader, Rashad, and as such, he faced no further legal charges. Even with its leader behind bars, the University of Cosmic Intelligence continues to live on, with all clips and new jailhouse recordings being posted to the group's YouTube channel, uploaded by one of Rashad's disciples. Reading through some of the top comments, it's clear that he still has a zealous, growing fanbase. The internet has dramatically expanded the reach and influence of cults, making it easier than ever for them to attract and recruit new followers, especially when a growing number of people are now terminally online and yet desperate for connection. Through social media platforms, forums, and websites, prophets like Rashad can quickly disseminate their message to a global audience, often targeting vulnerable individuals seeking community or purpose. Algorithms that promote echo chambers only amplify their influence, and those who fall prey to the teachings of these influencer gurus often don't realize the dangers they're putting themselves in. In August 2023, at least 6 members of Cosmic Intelligence disappeared from St. Louis. They haven't been seen or heard from since. While browsing the Internet Mysteries subreddit, I stumbled upon a post asking about a suspicious TikTok account, one whose owner has uploaded hundreds of bizarre videos over the span of a year and a half. Looking through them, you'll quickly notice some recurring themes: Buddhist iconography, photos of anonymous women, and ball-joint dolls arranged in strange positions. All of the videos are backed by surreal, avant-garde music created by the account owner himself. But the most concerning thing to be found on the account are undoubtedly clips like these. Videos in which the account holder films unsuspecting women through their windows, either while their backs are turned or while they're asleep. Reddit had a field day with this one, drawing comparisons between this account and Mr. Sleepy People, the ex-YouTuber who went around licking the eyeballs of sleeping, or more likely sedated, friends and acquaintances. Many people do seem to get a kick out of filming unconscious people without their knowledge or consent, and then sharing their video creations for other somnophiles to enjoy, and this account was certainly attracting some strange followers. Others have brought up the possibility of this being an elaborate ARG, or, more worryingly, the video diary of a wannabe serial killer. Indeed, many of the videos are captioned with ominous messages, like, "need to kill." However, you'll notice I haven't given out the name of the account holder, and that's because I personally don't think there's any mystery to solve here. I'm confident that the man behind the account is mentally unwell, and that the women featured are friends and relatives. Using subtle clues found in some of the videos, Reddit user Horseballs1998 was able to pinpoint the exact building that the account holder lives in, an apartment complex on the outskirts of Tampere, Finland, designed for seniors aged 63 and up. There were some videos where he films outside his window. You can see a sign to a university building. I don't want to dox him and say the exact place. As for the senior housing, I just googled his address and looked at a listing for an apartment in that building. You might need to know some Finnish for this if you want to research. I don't know if Google Translate is accurate. As to why he's doing this, my guess is Alzheimer's, or some sort of disability. Perhaps inspired by this discussion on Reddit, another user made a post on r/Internet Mysteries about a similar YouTube account. One which, in my opinion, is far more sinister. Ramad Yunus Alfian. On October 3rd of this year, user NoPay2356 posted the following. Weird YouTube channel filming sleeping women through door. Her face is covered for some reason. On this channel there are multiple strange videos and shorts showing a woman sleeping, and even another person laying next to her in one video. The man seems to be filming through the keyhole of the door, and it seems like the woman is sensing his presence, considering her disturbed sleep and the fact that she wakes up multiple times. If anyone can find further information about this man, and possibly inform local authorities, I would greatly appreciate it. As detailed by NoPay, Ramad Yunus Alfian is an Indonesian YouTuber with several POV videos on his channel, ones in which he secretly films a sleeping couple in the dead of night. Whether Ramad knows the subjects or not is unclear, though the title of this particular video, Takang Kabul, translates to pervert in English, so it's safe to say that Ramad is well aware what he's doing is wrong. Even more worrying is that he's posted other videos of this same household to his account, which appear to have been filmed on separate nights, meaning he's repeatedly targeted this same couple on multiple occasions. In this instance, I think the connection to Mr. Sleepy People is far more apt, given that Ramad's account definitely revolves around somnophilia, an attraction to the unconscious. While it's unclear what drives this desire, it likely stems from a feeling of control or power over a vulnerable person. In response to these videos, the Reddit community quickly mobilized to track Ramad down. Looking through some of his other videos, which include his work van, Reddit user Pacosi was able to narrow down that search. Based on his other videos, I think he lives in Medan, North Sumatra, and he works as a locksmith. I tried to track down the phone number, and it belongs to someone named Martin, maybe his boss. It also reveals the address of his workplace. I'll see if I can report it to the authorities, but since I live on a different island, the best I can do is submit the information to the Cybercrime Police Department. Although, knowing the Indonesian police, they probably won't take this case seriously. Indeed, it's likely that Ramad knows he won't face any serious consequences, seeing how he's left his phone number in several video titles. Unfortunately, the internet has given rise to a growing trend of people exploiting the sleeping, unsuspecting, and vulnerable. Non-consensual voyeurs have found a home online, where people with these disturbing inclinations can find communities that normalize their behavior. In the past, individuals with such urges would have likely kept them hidden, fearing judgment or ostracism. Now, online forums and networks allow them to connect anonymously with one another, offering them shadowy spaces to trade videos and further validate their actions, to the point where some don't even bother to hide their identities at all. And with such people out there, I can say one thing with certainty. I'll be keeping my curtains tightly closed at night from now on. In recent years, an old video game has been the subject of a lot of online attention, but not because of any sense of renewed nostalgia, but rather because of some resurfaced childhood trauma. Forum users across the net began discussing memories of an old arcade racer that no longer seemed to exist, one which they described as a cross between a racing sim and Silent Hill, where the whole ambience just felt off in a way that was hard to put into words. That game being Thrill Drive. If you've never heard of it, don't worry, you're far from alone. Despite being one of the main inspirations for the Burnout series, Thrill Drive has since fallen into obscurity. Developed by Konami and published in 1998, Thrill Drive never made it to consoles, and as a result, isn't well known outside of Japan. In fact, according to the Konami wiki, all Thrill Drive arcade cabinets have since disappeared, and the game is believed to be lost. Well, at least in the wild. As its name implies, Thrill Drive was set on public roads around the world, and saw players racing through busy cities, avoiding civilians and oncoming traffic to reach the finish line. The less damage they racked up along the way, the more they would be rewarded at the end. The game was set across 3 stages, was said to grade players based on their reflexes, style and courage, and at first glance appeared to be your typical light-hearted racing fare a la the Cruisin' series. That is, except for the horror elements. And we're not talking supernatural, spooky horror, but rather unsettling, realistic horror. According to the Konami wiki, Thrill Drive came with 2 settings, mild and hard. This affected both the animations and on-screen text following a collision. Each cabinet was set to hard by default, so should the player crash, they'd be met with something like this. A jarring scream would suddenly ring out, along with the face of the driver, milliseconds before impact. Ambulance sirens would blare, and the player character would either slump dead in their seat or be tossed through their windshield, depending on the severity of the crash. A slow-motion replay would show the carnage unfolding, with the text, "Collision, Serious Accident, or Fatal Accident," filling the screen. Adding to the morbidity, with each crash, the race would reset, but the atmosphere would be slightly different each time, devolving from fun to morose to downright haunting. The colours would become less vibrant, the clouds more oppressive, and the music would shift from your typical racing soundtrack to something ripped straight from a horror movie. No doubt many unsuspecting kids inserted their coins into the cabinet, perhaps expecting to play something similar to Crazy Taxi, but left feeling like they'd purchased a front row ticket to a road safety PSA. And we all know how creepy those can be. But here's the thing. Given that Thrill Drive was no longer available to play, and that all the descriptions of it sounded more like a creepypasta than an actual arcade game. Many people who had never played it in their youth began to question whether this supposedly lost piece of physical media was actually unfiction, an obscure ARG designed to draw people in and creep them out. It wouldn't be the first time that game footage was used in such a project. That 90s PS1 N64 style is particularly common in unfiction projects, given that it's much easier to replicate compared to modern graphics, and many games from that era had a, well, uncanny aura, let's put it like that. For example, Sagan Hawks recently dropped a video about his search for a creepy 90s dinosaur game. It's a fun, immersive watch, a true love letter to unfiction projects, but crucially, it proves that with enough dedication and talent, creative people can produce convincing gameplay footage to accompany their narratives. So, despite a few MAME-emulated runs of Thrill Drive existing online, many people aware of the game's supposed existence began to question whether they were fake too, created by people playing an elaborate hoax on the gaming community. Indeed, it was so hard to track down that even those who had played it began to question themselves. Could this be an example of a collective false memory? Perhaps a new example of the Mandela effect? Well, those concerns were put to rest 2 months ago, when user IllHedgehog made this post on the r/creepygaming subreddit. So this is a bit of a historical curiosity, and a game I hadn't heard of until I discovered it last week in the deserted kids club at an off-season golf resort in Australia. Why is it creepy? Thrill Drive is a racing game from 1998 that sets you out on the busy streets with civilian traffic and pedestrians, asks you to push the limits, and lets you see the consequences of your actions. If you crash too hard, your car is obliterated in ways that leave little to the imagination. The screen goes black, and bold red letters spell out lethal accident. Gran Turismo, this is not. But it's also not Grand Theft Auto, being goreless and actively discouraging bloodshed. It's somehow much more stressful despite its lack of blood, taking every injury really seriously, and counting up the cost of damage you cause in a sort of reverse high score mechanic. This might make it sound like a kind of Scaldy road safety ad, but it's not. It's actually super creepy. This is largely due to an interesting Silent Hill vibe, where each time you crash fatally, the screen fades to black, and then you get to restart, but the weather has become grimmer and darker. It's somber and eerie, and it gets worse each time. Eventually the whole world is a grey murk, with occasional lightning flashes. It's heavy. Interestingly, the Blue Mountains where I found this cabinet are also famous, or notorious, for their misty, cloudy, and eerie weather. Playing this, and then walking out into the multiple-day whiteout added an extra dimension to the experience, as did the many crows and magpies in the area. The cabinet art gives you a really good sense of what to expect vibes-wise. In terms of racing, I think it holds up. The handling is approachable and makes driving fun, even for non-racing people like me. I wanted to keep playing even after I spent $20 on credits, and I'm a responsible adult. According to the Konami wiki, these are believed to be lost in the wild, so I thought I'd post it here in case anyone has questions about it. If you're ever at Fairmount Resort in the Blue Mountains, don't pass up the chance to give it a go, especially if the clouds are low and the mist is deep and thick. So, there we have it. Thrill Drive is confirmed to be both real and still available to play in the outside world. Not exactly the darkest thing I've ever covered on this channel, but a fun little discovery nonetheless. One which, amidst all the grey and gloom of the game itself, gives many lost media enthusiasts hope. In IllHedgehog's words, it actually made me really happy, just knowing there must be so many other presumed lost games out there. This is Danny. Say hi, Danny. If you've sent or received a GIF in the past couple of months, you've probably seen her face pop up on your mobile device. Thing is, she only appeared recently, and yet seems to have paid everyone a welcome, or perhaps unwelcome visit in a short space of time, leaving many people wondering, who is this woman in these GIFs? Where do they come from? And why are they suddenly everywhere? let's try and get to the bottom of this one. The main tool used to find and share GIFs is Giphy, the second largest search engine in the world in terms of total searches. It's what you use to find GIFs on WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other main social networks really, so that's probably the best place to start our investigation. Heading over to Giphy.com, we can see that our mysterious friend is officially called Uncanny Dani, a fitting name. We can also see that her GIFs have racked up an impressive 1.8 billion views, confirming that she's not just being shared around by a small subculture of horror enthusiasts. Dani is indeed everywhere. Aside from that, there's little else to go on here. No links to her creators, no explanation about the purpose of the GIFs themselves, no information on why they were made, no backstory to the character, nothing really. So I dug a little deeper. I wanted to know how it was possible for a character with no known origin to consistently appear at the top of GIF searches. To figure that out, we need to know how Giphy's algorithm works. According to riseat7.com, when you upload a GIF to Giphy, you can add up to 10 hashtags to help people find it. Choosing relevant and commonly used tags will, logically, help your creation reach more people. GIFs with words typically rank higher than those without. It's clear that Dani's creator knew how to play the game, attaching her to commonly searched phrases in both English and Spanish. But simple searches like "go to sleep" and "I miss you" already have thousands of GIFs, and many more ordinary ones to choose from at that. The Uncanny Valley is something that appeals to me, and given the nature of this channel, probably most of you too, and we'd probably all send these as some sort of dark joke and see the funny side. But in my experience, the average person doesn't appreciate things like this. So why did Dani suddenly dominate in such oversaturated search markets when her competition was already well established, and, frankly, far more normal? The mystery surrounding these GIFs has given rise to rumour and conspiracy. The more cynical believe that Dani's a marketing tool, a way to drum up interest for an upcoming TV show or movie. A quick Google search of Uncanny Dani did lead me to this gentleman, Danny Robbins, an English broadcaster who has a paranormal investigation show called Uncanny. The name links up, and his hair is kind of similar to our Dani's, sure, though aside from that, there isn't much connecting the two. He's male, she's female, and none of the GIFs reference his show in any way. Other people have started giving Dani the creepypasta treatment, labelling her GIFs as cursed images and optic hazards. Once you've set eyes on Dani, she'll come pay you a good night visit in the near future. Well, a good 20% of the world is already doomed then. You lot included. Sorry guys. Finally, there are those who say that Dani is just a cool art project that caught on precisely because it's different, fun, and a little spooky. And having looked into her origin, I thankfully can confirm that to be the case. While chasing leads, I came across this Instagram post by Miss Gory FX. Somehow the Uncanny Dani section of Giphy has 1.5 billion views. I guess the uncertainty and the purgatory of the stale, unsettling backrooms is feeling oddly relevant. Model at Perry Human. Senior art/creative director at Parker S. Jackson. Hair and makeup artist at Miss Gory FX. Special thanks to the Giphy crew for bringing me on board for this one. Would you follow Dani into the backrooms? Eureka. This one post, made by the shoot's hair and makeup artist, gave us all of the information we've been searching for. The model playing our favourite backrooms entity is Laura Dromerick, aka Very Human, an actor and creative performer who's been in some interesting projects. The GIFs were commissioned by Giphy themselves and directed by California-based artist Parker S. Jackson. Checking out Mr. Jackson's Instagram page, I was pleasantly surprised to find some mind-blowing, blood-curdling artwork that he's created. Everything here is just such a treat. I'm particularly fond of Old Egbert here. Looking a bit deeper into Parker S. Jackson's work history, we can see that he was a concept artist for Jordan Peele's movie Nope, was the co-creator of the Found Footage Art Collective, and currently works as creative director at Giphy Studios. And that explains why the GIF was able to become so popular so quickly. So, Dani was the brainchild of a creative mind, and we can definitely say that her origin has been found. And still, her sudden prevalence has been a fun little anomaly, and it's nice seeing all the myths and backstories people have been sharing around about Dani's sudden infamy. And now that we know she's from the backrooms, hopefully we can get some more official, or maybe even unofficial lore. And if not, well, I'm sure many of us will be seeing Danny in our dreams later anyway. Why hello again, Lazy Legion. It has been a while, hasn't it? Apologies for the long break between this video and the last. I've not only been in the process of moving back to Japan, but honestly, I became a little disheartened when YouTube decided to hit a few of my videos with that yellow $ of doom for no discernible reason. But it'll be smooth sailing from here on out, I'm sure. Knock on wood. Before the video ends, I'd like to say a huge thank you to my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon. Especially my biggest supporters. Cool Dude Organ, George Lopez, Holly Lyons, Modest Bulbasaur, Zach Horgan, Alana Pons, Asia Mina, Azrael Warakai, Chief Kochuake, Colin Monsma, Connor Lothan, Enzo is a good boy, Farewell Tattoos Jack Sefel, Gina Valera, Grace Archie, Hamish, Ian Belloc, Misty Blue Longy, Peter Logdredge, TNS Mum, Terry Ford, Pray to Jesus, LJB, Itai Alon, and Nephus1988. Thank you guys so much for your continued support.